Hi, everybody, and welcome to a new world filled with miracles. We're living in times of such open miracles that it's simply a new world. So, welcome to this new world. It's Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So, Chodesh Nisan is Hadash Nisim. It's new miracles. That's what we're living in. And so, Baruch Hashem, here we are with a new world of new miracles. A good Chodesh, everybody. May it be a blessed new month for all of the community, for all Klal Yisrael, and Be'ez Hashem in Nisan, we are redeemed, we were redeemed, we will be redeemed, and each one of us gets an aspect of our personal geula. Whatever our personal geula is, we're getting part of it. We're getting whatever we can have of our personal geula, of the redemption of our personal souls. Be'ez Hashem. Sometimes the geula that we get is not the geula that we thought we wanted, but it's for sure geula. Sometimes the Yeshua, the blessing, the way that we get it, what we get, it doesn't exactly measure up to what we thought we wanted, but it's definitely a Yeshua. It's definitely a geula for ourselves, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has crafted it exactly for us. We're beginning Chumash Vayikra, and there's something special about Chumash Vayikra that I'm sure we all know this, but just to repeat this to ourselves, that when we start teaching little children Chumash, we don't start at Bereshis. We start with Vayikra. As it says, Chazal teaches that let the Tahirim come and learn about Taharis. Let the pure children whose Hevel Pihem, that when they speak, the air that comes out of their mouths, their breath is pure. They've never had any untoward thoughts. Let those pure breaths come and discuss the laws of purity. So we're going to be discussing the laws of purity, but we're also going to remember things that we've been learning over the last couple of weeks. And one of the themes that has come out very strongly over the last couple of weeks is the priority and the fundamental aspect of the Torah, which is Teshuvas Yisrael, which is Klal Yisrael doing tshuva. The korbanos are Teshuvah. We sometimes might get distracted and thinking that somehow the Beis Hamikdash is about things other than tshuva, but actually all of the Beis Hamikdash is about a place to bring the korbanos. Korbanos has two roots. First of all, from karov, it's to make us close to Hashem, and also lahakriv, to bring from within oneself. To when we makriv something, it means like we sacrifice something, we give up on something, we give something from within ourselves over to another, and through that we get close to another person. So they're both related grammatically. That we become karov through being makriv, that we, through giving something of ourselves, we come close to another person. Karov, we come close. But that's what the korbanos are about. They're about coming close. They're about teshuvah, return to being close. We return to the closest that we had with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's what all of the korbanos are about. And so, as we learned about what Rabasha taught us in the Big Day Kahuna, that we're supposed to learn from the great detail which the Torah goes to describe the Big Day Kahuna. We're supposed to learn from that how precious is tshuva. We're supposed to learn a hint that if we go to such great lengths to mention and describe all of the different aspects of the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, it's to show us how precious tshuva is, because each one of those garments hints to a different kind of tshuva and different kinds of various different kinds of sins that we can have to do tshuva for, that we have to do atonement for. And so is all of the discussion about the korbanos, all of the conversation throughout the Chumash of Vayikra, which describes in great detail all of the different kinds of korbanos. And we might think, well, what is irrelevant now? We don't have a Beis Hamikdash, and we're not going to, and we don't bring korbanos now. We don't bring meal offerings, and we don't bring sheep, and we don't bring cows, and we don't bring the tamid, and we don't bring any of these. The point is, we still have to do tshuva. We're still very mired in a galus that deceives us, and in a world that takes us in, and we are in greater need of teshuva than ever. And so, the point of the korbanos is not about the actual bringing of the korban, even though it needs to be done a certain way for all kinds of reasons that are mysterious and wonderful to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that certainly a person like me doesn't understand. But the tshuva aspect, that we need to do tshuva for these kinds of to atonement for these kinds of sins, and we have to atone for those kinds of sins, and then we have to atone for these kinds of sins, and they're different, and it's not just one size fits all. Just like lahavdil, when a person wants to come and clean their house for Pesach, and you know, a person like me might say, you have a packet of baby wipes, and you just do everything with baby wipes, and it gets clean. But a person who really understands in depth, such as Israeli neighbors of mine who have 25 different kinds of cleaning equipment. Now you need this for this, and you need that for that. One of my daughters loves listening to one of these phone lines that they describe how to get stains out of this and how to get clean that and all these kinds of home tips. And it's wonderful, and it's great that I have a daughter that I can ask, listen, I know you listen to this phone line. What's the tip for getting rid of whatever it is? Because I don't have the patience to listen to those kinds of phone lines. But there's a chachma, there's a wisdom to getting rid of these kinds of stains and those kinds of stains. And so there's a wisdom in the Torah to atoning for these kinds of averos and those kinds of averos. And it's not all the same, and they're not all lumped together. And we need to learn from this that teshuva is not just a one size fits all. We need to look deep into ourselves, and we need to understand the root of the infraction in order to be able to fully atone. And so all of the different laws of the korbanos, of the offerings, that we don't have the capacity to bring in our times, but we have the capacity to learn how to do teshuva. It's all about teshuva. So, Reb Asher, first of all, actually, before we start, I did start, but before we go further, I want to say Mizmor L'Soida all together, because I think that that's what we need to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Mizmor L'Soida, as we learned last week. It's only 5 psukim, and I will say each pasuk with a translation according to what we learned last week, so that Be'ezras Hashem, with repetition, we will become very, very familiar with the verses of Mizmor L'Soida and also its meaning, so that when we say it, we'll be able to have in mind. I certainly found that over the last week when I was saying Mizmor L'Soida, after having learned it with everybody, and I'm so grateful to everybody for being here so that we could learn it together, my saying of Mizmor L'Soida was absolutely different because I understood the verses so much better. Mizmor L'Soida, a song of thanks that was said on the offerings, on the Thanksgiving offerings for the miracles that Hashem does. Hariu Ladoinai Kol Haaretz. All of the world raise a cry of thanks to Hashem for all of the miracles that we see. Ivdu es Adonai b'simcha. Serve, do the mitzvahs to Hashem, do the mitzvahs of Hashem out of a desire to serve Him and not out of rote. And even the deciding to be b'simcha with whatever's going on in the world is also a form of serving Kodesh Baruch Hu. Come before him with a joy that is born of the inner joy within ourselves and speaking out our joy, so that it's heart and mouth together. Du'u ki Adonai hu Elohim hu asanu v'loi anachnu amoi b'tzon marisai. And here I realize that since I don't have it in front of me, I'm a big talker. Let's find the Tehillim and quickly find Kapitel Kuf and translate the verse that I just said. Let's see, where are we? Sadik. Here we are. Okay. No, that Hashem, the one God who created the world and was, is, and will be forever, who us that we are the sheep that He takes care of. And when we go beyond our nature for Kadosh Baruch Hu, He is going to go and change nature for us. He sustains us through everything. Bo sharav besoida chatzei roisav bisahila haiduloi baruch hu shmoi. Come into His gates in thanksgiving, and that means that one who wants to do tshuva can return into the gates through giving thanks. Chatzei roisav bisahila. One who dwells within praises. Sitting within the gates, we sit with praise to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Thank Him and bless His name. And how do we do that? By saying the words, Ki toiv Adonai la'olam chasdoi v'ad do v'ado emunasai. For Hashem is good, His kindness lasts forever, and His faithfulness to pay and to reward will be for all generations. Okay. The Korbanos. So the verse says, Adam ki yakriv michem korban lashem. When a person offers from yourself an offering to Hashem, after all of the parshas that describe the building of the Mishkan, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu describes, where the Torah describes how Moshe Rabbeinu and all Yisrael erected the Mishkan, and to bring the place, to create that place where the Shekhinah would come and dwell within Klal Yisrael, the Parsha comes and gives us the first mitzvah of how to bring the Korbanos, how to bring these offerings that are going to atone for Klal Yisrael in this place. And the Ramban of Moshe ben Nachman writes, Ki ba'avo shemasei b'nei Adam nigmarim b'machshava ubedivu b'maiseh Tziva Hashem ki kasha yachte ve'yavi korban yismoich yodav alav keneged ha'maiseh ve'yizvade b'fiv keneged ha'dibur ve'yisroif b'eish hakroi v'chloyes shehem klei ha'machshava v'ataiva. Okay. The Ramban says, because a person uses various aspects of himself when he does an Aveira. Again, we're talking about tshuva. The entire conversation about bringing offerings is about how to do tshuva. And so the Ramban is teaching us, how do we do tshuva? What can we learn from the offerings about how we do tshuva? That's what the whole conversation is about, because Chaviv in Yisrael, because Klal Yisrael is so precious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He wants our tshuva. What? She wants to come in? Somebody wants to come into the meeting? Hi, you're not able to get in? No, it doesn't work. You need the link that I sent in the email. You need to go into the email and look for the link. It's not a phone number. It's not a phone number. You have to go into the link in the email. Okay? Yes, so I did send it, and you have to look in your promotions tab. Look through all of the tabs, but I'm in the middle of giving the class now, so it's like, so I won't be able to talk more now. But you go into the promotions tab, and you probably find it in the promotions tab. Okay? So you have to ask a friend. Ask a friend to help you find the promotions tab, because I can't explain it right now. But if you go into your email, you have to find in the promotions tab, because when there's a link in an email, it doesn't go right into your direct inbox. It goes into promotions. So you have to ask somebody else how to find that, because I'm in the middle of giving the class. I'm so sorry. I hope otherwise you'll get the recording. Okay, bye. Okay, take the phone. Thank you. Okay. So again, we're talking all about teshuva. The whole conversation is about how to return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ramban says, because when we do a deed, a person's deeds comprise many aspects of a person. We are complex creatures, and we have many, many different elements. We have our thoughts, we have our speech, and we have our deeds. All of them take place when we act in this world. So Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded that when a person does an Aveira, and now he wants to do tshuva and bring an offering to atone for it, he has to use all of these elements in the tshuva process. He has to put his hands upon the animal, and that is connected. That corresponds to the deed that a person did. Now he's doing the deed of putting his hands onto the animal. That's the deed that he Hello, sorry about that. My internet just crashed for a second. Okay. And then he has to confess with his mouth. So that's corresponding to speech. And then he has to burn the innards of the offering in a fire. And the innards, the karav and the klayos, the kidneys and the inner portions of the animal, those are his thoughts and his desires of a person. He's going to bring them into the fire. And then the limbs of the animal are brought, and those are corresponding to the hands and legs that a person uses to use for his work in whatever he does. And then the blood is thrown onto the offering, onto the altar. That is corresponding to the blood is the nefesh of a person. So the blood that corresponds to his nefesh being brought. So when a person is there and puts his hands on the offering and he speaks out his sins and he's looking at the innards that are brought and he thinks about his own inner self that he's bringing and he watches the blood being poured and he thinks about his own life force that is being given over to Kodesh Baruch Hu. This is the elements of tshuva. This is how we return in thought, speech, and deed, and in an all-encompassing way to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. So a person should think when he's doing all of these things that he did an Avera, that he actually went against the will of his Kodesh Baruch Hu with his body and with his soul. And because he willingly violated the will of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, his body should be burned and his blood should be poured. And if it wasn't for the chesed of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that would be where he would be. The Talmud Devara says that according to strict judgment, if a person would want to do an Avera, if a person would want to steal something and he puts his hand out to steal, his hand should be frozen. He shouldn't be allowed to move it. But Kodesh Baruch Hu allows us the free choice so that we're allowed to do things that are wrong, and then we can do tshuva. And then Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us the capacity to do tshuva. And tshuva was created before the world was created. If we believe in the power of an Avera, we have to believe in the power of teshuva. Even though we see, this is one of the miracles of the world, even though we see that there might be fallout, there could be damage, there could be even terrible damage. And yet the teshuva is more powerful than the deeds. We have to believe that. We have to believe in tshuva more than we believe in our power to destroy, because it's a Kodesh Baruch Hu. And so we then believe in the chesed of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, that he took away from us our Avera, he atoned, and he gave us the capacity to bring an offering that will atone for us, and it will be that the blood of the offering is going to be in place of our blood, a soul for a soul. A Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us this capacity to atone. It's brought in the Sfarim that at the time of the singing of the Levim would sing when the Korbanos were being brought. And they would sing at the time that the Levim would sing, the souls of those who were listening almost left them from the ecstasy and from the devekas of hearing the songs of the Levim. They were so elevating. And they were so shaken to the depths of their souls to think about what they had done. It was the most moving experience that a person could experience, of coming close to Kodesh Baruch Hu, of feeling the association with the offering that they were bringing, feeling the life force of that animal, experiencing it being brought, internalizing the message that I could have been there, but Kodesh Baruch Hu is giving me my life again. I have a new life because this korban has been accepted to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And these holy songs of the Nevi'im that they were singing and that they were being played on the various instruments, brought the message even deeper into the psyche and the soul of the one who was bringing the offerings. And they literally came to a place where their souls were longing, and their souls could almost have left them from the depth of their longing for Kadosh Baruch Hu that they experienced, and the depth of their experiencing the need to clean themselves, and their regret of having distanced themselves by having done something wrong. And Rabosha teaches us we have to clarify that the most important part of bringing the offering, according to the Ramban, is the thoughts that a person had after they placed their hand on the head of the offering, and after they said the words of the vidui, of the confession, that those are corresponding to the deeds and to speech, comes the most important part, which is the shechita, the slaughtering, the ritual slaughtering of the offering, receiving the blood in the special vessels, and then bringing the blood and putting it onto the altar. And these services before Kadosh Baruch Hu, these were supposed to capture the imagination in the one who was bringing the offering. We were supposed to be completely consumed with the thought processes and associate and identify ourselves with what was going on, and feel that we were actually being brought before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when a person would think these things, as the Kohen was working, that would achieve the atonement. But if the Kohen who was bringing the offering at the time would have a wrong thought, if he would think inappropriate, or just thoughts that he was not going to do it properly, if he would think something that was not according to the exact laws of the bringing of that offering at the time that he was bringing it, he could make that offering unfit. That was the degree to which the thoughts of a person can affect what's going on. And this whole expression is to help us to understand that we don't see our thoughts, and we don't necessarily connect the dots and realize the power of our thoughts. What this is coming to teach us is that our thoughts, and again, I've mentioned many times, but it's really important to repeat this, that Rabbi Dr. Abram J. Twersky teaches the difference between a machshava and a hirhor, between a fleeting thought and a sort of a meditative thought or a contemplation, where if a person has a fleeting thought, meaning a thought just drops into a person's head, they don't really know where it came from. It might be a trigger from something they saw or heard. It might be, somebody else's thoughts that was nearby that just went flying through the universe and landed in their head. We don't know where our thoughts come from. In fact, Hashem sends us multiple thoughts a day that we didn't necessarily choose them. We are not culpable for a thought that enters our head. We didn't do something to create those thoughts. We're not guilty for a thought that just drops into our head. So people often think, I should work on myself, I shouldn't even think those things. No, the initial thought is not in our hands. But what we do with an initial thought, if we contemplate then a thought that drops into our head, and we stay with those thoughts, then we are culpable. Then those are our choice. We're making a choice then to think about that. Okay? So this is to teach us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, liba boy, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our heart. He wants the contemplation. He wants us to contemplate about him. He wants us to think about him. He wants us to think about his wonders, about the kindnesses that he does for us all day. He wants us to deeply contemplate the different character traits of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that are taught throughout the Torah. And in this case, forgiveness, atonement. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his great kindness, allows us to atone for the most egregious sins and the most awful things. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his kindness, allows us to actually atone for misdeeds, even when we may see in the real world there are some irreparable damage has been done. And yet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, beyond nature, allows us to do tshuva still in his tremendous chesed. That's what Hashem wants us to use our brains for. He wants us to use our brains to contemplate ways to serve him and be like him and do mitzvahs in more elevated, happy, invested ways. So, one of the ways that we elevate our service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and one of the ways that we can use our thinking is in how we do the mitzvahs. So we're doing tshuva for negative thoughts. We're doing tshuva for having used our thoughts in negative ways. How do we help ourselves to increase that tshuva? Is by using our thoughts in positive ways. Chazal teach us that one of the aspects of how not to do a mitzvah is we shouldn't do mitzvahs by rote. When we do a mitzvah just because, well, I did it yesterday, I'm doing it today, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. If we always are doing mitzvahs just because we've always done them, then we're not bringing our heart, we're not using our thoughts, we're just doing them on automatic, just the same way that we make our breakfast in the morning or make a coffee and we don't really think about it. We just go through the motions. That's what our mitzvahs have become. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to fulfill the mitzvahs because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do them with feeling and with intention. And just as the main part of the korbanos was the innards that we brought, so the main part of the mitzvah is the innards that we bring. How can we know? And here Rav Asher gives us a clue of how we can know if we're doing a mitzvah because we're doing it by rote, or if we're doing it through contemplation. How can we know? According to the amount of mesiras nefesh that we have for the mitzvah, according to the amount that we put of ourselves, that we stretch in that mitzvah. Now, a person cannot stretch all the time in all ways, right? If a person would live at the gym only stretching their body, they would probably come to exhaustion pretty quickly. And the same is true spiritually. We can't stretch in all ways all the time. There are tzaddikim who can be immersed and constantly stretching. And Hashem, Chazal teaches that Hashem said of the Avos that they ran before me like horses, that they strained themselves in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu as it were, as if they were horses pulling wagons. They were so they were stretching constantly. And yet we cannot expect that of ourselves. But even if we do a little bit of this, if we have a little stretch, some mesiras nefesh. Okay, what does mesiras nefesh mean? Giving over of our spirit, giving over of our soul. We put our soul into it in a way that we stretch a little out of our comfort zone. It's a bit of a stretch. It's a stretch that we can make, but it's a stretch that takes effort. When we do that, we're showing that we're thinking about the mitzvah and we're not just doing it by rote with a stretch. And that's what it means, as it says the verse in the Parsha, Adam ki yakriv mechem korban Hashem. When a person brings from themselves a korban to Hashem. And the Mefarshim say a person needs to bring from himself and from his deeds to HaKadosh Baruch Hu from within ourselves. And Rav Asher then brings from his personal experience that he witnessed so many Jews coming from Soviet Russia where they were not allowed to keep mitzvahs, where they went through incredible hardships and literally risked their lives in order to be able to do the mitzvahs. He said they told incredible stories, hair-raising stories of the kinds of situations within which they lived and kept mitzvahs. I've read stories of people that they had a mikveh in their home and they covered it with wood and they lived literally with their lives in their hands because if they would be discovered, they would be killed on the spot. But they continued to allow people to come in and use that mikveh for the sake of the purity of Klal Yisrael. Incredible Mesiras Nefesh. Pesach is a mitzvah that we stretch for. And certainly I'm not encouraging us to stretch beyond a level that we can still maintain menuchas nefesh with that stretch. And that's the balance. Mesiras nefesh with menuchas nefesh. Okay? Meaning a stretch that we can still live with tranquility at that level of stretch. If we're moving into a state that is anxiety, then it's beyond a stretch. It's taking us into a place where we're not supposed to stretch that much. We're not ready for such a stretch. The anxiety is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mechanism for teaching us that we've moved into a place that's not healthy for us. Okay, so again, there's a little bit of land in between doing things completely by rote without any stretch, and then we move into the place where, okay, this is a bit of a stretch if I do it like this, to the place where if I force myself to do it like this, I'm getting into a place where I don't have any peace of mind anymore. I'm ruminating about it. I'm not comfortable about it. I'm feeling anxious. That's already too much. We need to stay within that zone. That's a stretch, but I'm not injuring myself. Just as a person goes to the gym, we're not going to jump to 100 reps, 100 repetitions of a certain exercise because it's going to be too much, and we could end up with having to go to hospital because we're strained on muscles. You have to do whatever is a healthy, safe stretch, and that's how we know if we're doing the mitzvah with contemplation and not just by rote, when we're in that healthy stretch zone. So, 1 second. We can learn from those people who come to join Klal Yisrael, people who have had Mesiras Nefesh, whether it's the Gerim who have come to join Klal Yisrael, have went through incredible hardships in order to join our nation, or whether it's Baalei Tshuva who've gone through huge amounts of hardship in order to be able to come back and borne ridicule and incredulity from their community, or whether it's a person who has picked at themselves from wherever they are and strengthened themselves, that even if the people around them are fulfilling mitzvahs in a way that is by rote, but they're going to do things a little different within themselves, and they're going to risk other people maybe laughing at them, or you become so from all of a sudden, or whatever it is. But they've decided to stretch that little bit more, whatever it is. Let's learn from those around us who are stretching. Let's surround ourselves with those people who are stretching in a healthy way, not in a anxious OCD kind of a way, but in a healthy way. How we can increase our own contemplation and inner dedication to the mitzvahs. So Parshas Vayikra teaches us that Parshas Vayikra is the first parsha that we teach little children when they come into Cheder. And there's a special meaning here because this parsha is teaching us also about Mesiras Nefesh, is teaching us about the need to do mitzvahs from a place of stretching and not just from a place of, okay, just doing it. That's the way I've always done it. I don't have to invest myself in it particularly. No. Adam ki yakriv michem. Bring it from yourself. Make it your own through contemplating, through stretching. If you want to grow in your life, this is where we grow. We grow in Shmiras mitzvahs. We grow in how we do the mitzvahs. We do in our thought. The Torah is vast and is enormous, and there's no way that we can do all of it. There's no way. And so each of us, the choice is given. We can choose which mitzvah is right now, do you feel you can stretch in? And not too much, but in a way that feels healthy for you. And if it's in Pesach and it's a stretch and that's already good enough stretch, don't do more that makes you anxious, but in a way that's, okay, It's not so simple. I'm taking time off of what I would normally do to do this, to bring Pesach into my home in a way that's kosher and happy. Sometimes not doing it might be actually a Hinda mitzvah. Doing less of things that don't need to be done may be actually a way of showing that, okay, I'm having Mesiras Nefesh, I'm bringing for myself that I'm not doing it in that way, because that would make me anxious. And I'm actually going to live, I'm going to make sure that I can come into Pesach happy and calm. That might be a new way of doing things. So the Meforshim say that the whole aspect of the atonement and the bringing of the offerings is that a person should look at all, as we said, as we began, with all of the aspects of the laws of bringing the korbanos, the kosher slaughter of the offering, and the removal of the skin, and how the various limbs are separated until the full burning in fire on the offering, on the mizbeach, on the altar. That all this truly, if we have gone against the will of Hashem, then Hashem is showing us this could have been what happened to us. And only Kadosh Baruch Hu, in His great kindness and in his compassion for us, He allows us to do tshuva and to return, and He allows us to bring the offering in place of ourselves. And then what's incumbent upon us then is to think, is to engage our thoughts and contemplate at that moment, and come back to Kadosh Baruch Hu and wash our inner selves of the traces of whatever varied it was. And a Kadosh Baruch Hu will heal us. A Kadosh Baruch Hu will protect us. A Kadosh Baruch Hu will forgive us in His great kindness. And now we don't have a Beis Hamikdash. We don't have an altar. We cannot bring the offerings, but we can bring of ourselves. We can bring of ourselves in every single mitzvah that we do. And again, not in a way that is obsessive, compulsive, or producing anxiety, but in a way that is a genuine offering of ourselves. Because this is where I am, and this is what I want to bring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That remains with us until today. That capacity to draw close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our thoughts and in our intention and in the stretch that we bring in how we fulfill mitzvahs. And that is what we need to do. And Be'ez Hashem, that stretch that we bring, that's our offering. And that stretch that we do now, and the contemplation that we bring, and the part of ourselves that we bring in our mitzvah fulfillment, that is the atonement for anything that we need to atone for. And we'll bring about our forgiveness, so that Be'ez Hashem, there's still time to bring the Korban Pesach. Mashiach will come. We'll be able to all bring the para aduma and be metaher from all of the averos in the past and come completely pure Seder night to bring all of the offerings in the new Beis Hamikdash. Hashem. I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to check the chat and see if there were any questions that I didn't go into the chat today. No, nothing in the chat. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. Something
Thank
there.
you. Thank you so much for the amazing class.
Shirley, wonderful to hear your voice. Thank you so much.
God bless.
Okay, let me see if anyone else says something. Yeah, 1 second. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful to have you all here. Thank you so much for being here so we could share this together. So grateful for everybody. Have a wonderful week. May we continue to see miracles and thank Hashem for the miracles and deepen our gratitude. And those who are in America and you still saying Hallel, still Rosh Chodesh for you. A good Chodesh and a good Chodesh to all Klal Yisrael, wherever we are. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank
you
so much.
Glad you were here. Okay.
I got to say something. I got right out of the thing. It's so bad on the computer.
You're doing great. You're here. Bye.
Thank you.